want to go back to what I addressed at the outset. I mean, this was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information, could reposition their defensive systems. So I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying, Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
It's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
stated, is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Dr. Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset you made a couple of comments about signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the...
They all were knowledgeable about this chat and warned a week before any of this happened. And yet somehow they didn't get the memo.
Current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement, the signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series of
decryption. So to finish,
I understand encryption.
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. Right. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with those processes, and finally, just please. So my communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. Let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a SCIF?
There was no classified material that was shared in that. So then if there was no classified
material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer the question. If this was Director Gabbard, if this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that.
Ma'am, if there's no classified materials, share. And then if there's no classified materials, then you can't even answer the question whether you're on the chat. This is strangely familiar, and I think my colleagues will remember, when you couldn't answer the question, is Edward Snowden a traitor? Ma'am, I have serious doubts about anyway. Director Gabbard, I'm going to give you this. Tweeted just 11 days ago, and I'm quoting you.
Wait. What did he just say? Oh, my goodness.
Anyway. Director Gabbard, I'm going to give you this. Tweeted just 11 days ago, and I'm quoting you. Any unauthorized release of classified information is a violation of the law and will be treated as such. So if this information is classified, what are you going to do?
Senator, 2 points here. First of all, there's a difference between inadvertent release versus
Careless and sloppy.
malicious leaks of classified information. The second point.
Okay, this is interesting what she says. She says there's a difference. She goes into this, right? There's a difference. You know, she's trying to say inadvertent versus malicious, right? Well, do the American people still give these folks the benefit of the doubt? It always comes down to the benefit of the doubt. We're supposed to believe that this is inadvertent, that they did not know this information would be leaked, was being leaked when they did it. We're supposed to believe they did not know, right? This is one of the people that sets the guidelines, right? I'm sure she doesn't set them alone, but, and that's the thing about it, a week before this chat was even opened up, and it's likely not the first chat. That's the problem here. A week before, they were warned by the Pentagon. They said that this app had been hacked, right? And yet they continue to use it. They've probably been using it the entire time. Now, the question is, she says inadvertent versus malicious. But how does anyone know? How does anyone know? And are the American people supposed to sit back and just assume this? Assume that it's inadvertent. It was just a mistake. It happened just like, how does she know it was inadvertent? First of all, how does she know? And who is supposed to do the investigation when the individuals are at the highest level of security? These are the ones that are charged with maintaining the security, right? And this is what's ridiculous here, folks. It comes down to this. If it's inadvertent, oops, it was just an accident. It's just, oops, nobody really takes accountability. Oops. And if we find out who knew this, right, we're supposed to assume that, oh, it's all of them. All of them is just an accident. None of them knew. From where I'm sitting, this looks like espionage on the highest levels. Like it had been pre-arranged they would use this, and that they're aware that others got access to this information, had live access to this information. They could have even had Russians, Chinese could have been having access to their communications the entire time, not just with this debacle, but the entire time that they have been in office using Signal. But in any case, they had been warned by the Pentagon a week before this Houthi chat was even made. And this is what's ridiculous about it. But let's continue. Let's hear a little more.
There was no classified information that was on
Then the information committee should get that information.
And the National Security Council
Patel, my time's about out, and I'm going to use my 12 seconds that the chairman gave me. Director Patel, has the FBI launched any investigation of this?
Senator, I was just briefed about it late last night, this morning. I don't have an update.
I would like to get an answer by the end of the day.
So the answer is,
I'm going to go back to what I addressed at the outset. I mean, this was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information, could reposition their defensive systems. So I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying, Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
stated, is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat.
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset, you made a couple of comments about signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA,
Right,
as it is for most
he
CIA
goes
offices.
into the repeat cycle here, and of course, they're not. They don't seem to want to provide information. They don't seem to want to provide information to the American people. This would be the place to provide information in hearings, right? And so far, all they could say is, at best or at worst, it was inadvertent. They're trying to put out there in advance to the public that whatever it was inadvertent, right? And you're supposed to believe that without any type of trial. And who would give a trial? It would be the Senate, right? To some degree. But we know right now Congress and the Senate are basically taken out of the picture. Trump is not really, you have Republicans that have been pushing Trump through the entire time. And keep in mind, Trump is a person that has been adjudicated, convicted. Now, he has, some of the trial has been stopped. He's been given a stay because he was the president, right? Or running for office. Can't prosecute him, or you can't give him a sentence while he's the president, right? Essentially, or while he's running to be the president. But criminality had been known the entire time. Espionage has been something that people have been worried about the entire time. And yet this is the best they can offer. The American people are supposed to believe this is not espionage, that they had not been orchestrated to do this, to use this chat by a foreign government. And Tulsi Gabbard, she's already been said to have been a Russian asset. And she's not the only one. This is not looking good for the American people. But let's go on.
Signal is safer than traditional cell phone traffic. You want to plan a meeting, that's fine. But the idea of this kind of classification information that could, as Jeffrey laid out, could put people in harm's way, there's no debate on this. So what's next is how many other of these chats and what is the content, and there needs to be a review.
That was the Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, today, not only detailing why putting classified information in a Signal group chat is an irresponsible and frankly dangerous way to handle our national intelligence, but also asking the one big question that still remains unanswered. How many more of these Signal chats exist? Joining me now is former CIA Director John Brennan, MSNBC Senior National Security and Intelligence Analyst. Director Brennan, let's start there. Senator Mark Kelly was on our air today, and he also had questions about other Signal chats. I want to play for you what he had to say.
I'm not sure it was in the open hearing, but I asked if there were other Signal chains with other principals. And the answer is yes, there is. I also asked about, have you gone through and checked to make sure there's no other random people in there? One of the witnesses says they did, the other didn't. So there's a possibility that there, on other Signal chains, that there are other random people that were included.
Director Brennan, is this unusual, one? And two, is this dangerous?
Well, yes, Simone, this is very unusual, and it seems to be getting uglier by the day, if not by the hour, in terms of what we're learning. And as Senator Warner and as Congressman Castro mentioned earlier, it's unclear exactly the extent to which the Signal chat has been used for other principal committee discussions. This was a Principals Committee virtual meeting that was held on Signal. And it was clear that they're talking about a pending military operation that really should have been in top secret systems and communication networks, but they chose to use Signal. Now, Signal, as pointed out, is encrypted when it's transmitted, but it's not encrypted when it gets to somebody's phone. And just in this instance here, on Yemen and the Houthis, the Iranians are the Houthis' main principal sponsor. The Iranians have very sophisticated technical capabilities. Maybe they have compromised Jeffrey Goldberg's phone or one of the other principals' phone.
Right, and not only that, but the Iranians are engaged right now with the Russians in supporting the Russians in the war against Ukraine. Essentially, they are helping each other. The Russians help the Iranians help the Russians. They are active counterparts in a war, right? And their wars that they engage in happen to be the very wars that are against who the U.S. is supporting. Now, just to put that out there, he says Iranians, right? I don't know why they just don't mention the obvious that, hey, the Iranians are actually sending equipment, military gear, and not only the Iranians, by the way, Chinese, North Koreans, to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, at this time, there was an official, a Trump official, administration official, liaison to the administration in Russia at the time that this was going on, that these conversations were happening over Signal, this particular one with regarding the Houthis. And this, every single avenue, every single piece of information points to espionage at the highest level. It points to the entire White House administration appointees essentially being Russian spies committing espionage right out now. It's in the open right now. It had always been suspected, but right now it's in the open only because of the Atlantic newspaper that was added to the chat. They are the ones that informed the public of this chat. No one else did. And these people were also told by the Pentagon not to use this app. They were told that, and they were told why. Because the app had been hacked, has been known to have been hacked, is easily hacked by Chinese, by Russians, and maybe others. Now, inadvertent means an accident. But what if it wasn't inadvertent? What if they knew the entire time? And why should the American people give them the benefit of the doubt? This makes no sense.
And they would have had access to this, and it wouldn't have taken them much to be able to reach out to the Houthis and say that U.S. aircraft and missiles are on the way to batten down the hatches, but also put together your air defense systems so that you can, in fact, prevent a successful attack.
And keep in mind, you don't know if they were informed. You don't know if the principal targets were actually hit. You don't know if the individuals that they were going for were actually hit. You don't know if those individuals were warned. All you know is that the strikes were carried out, the physical strikes. There's been no reporting on who actually has been hit. So how do you know if it was a success? Just because the buildings were hit. The targets were specific individuals, partly, not all, but partly, right? They're going after individuals. They already mentioned this. They were waiting for someone to show up at the pre-arranged destination that they're targeting. They assumed that the individual was there because someone that knows the individual showed up. This is all in the chat. This is all in the chat that was leaked by Atlantic. Not leaked by Atlantic, leaked by them, but the public had it leaked by the Atlantic newspaper. So just keep this in mind. In my mind, this is as close as you get to high level espionage. And the only question for me is how many of them knowingly participated in this. You won't be able to prove it because all they will do is come out into the public and say, oh, we didn't know. And how would you know? There would have to be an investigation. But who does the investigation? The CIA. Who's the head of the CIA? Who's the head of the FBI? Kash Patel. Is that somebody you trust? Tulsi Gabbard, CIA. Is that someone you trust? Do you trust them to do an investigation of themselves?
I think looking back on it, I think we're all very thankful that nothing like that happened. But if they're using Signal for regular communication that includes classified information of a sensitive nature, there really is a question of what other sensitive programs or sensitive activities and of a classified nature have been put at risk.
Director Brennan, today, the current CIA director and since then others have claimed that Signal comes loaded on the government phones already. And I worked in the Biden administration in the first year, and I could tell you Signal was not on my government phone, and there was a very small group of people within the federal government that had access to text messaging on their government phones. What do you make of the only way I can describe it, sir, is gaslighting from the current CIA director about what is happening with this instance, but also the broader security apparatus?
Well, that's why I think we need to get to the truth. And I think a first step was made when Senators Wicker and Reid asked the Inspector General of the Pentagon to do a thorough and immediate investigation on this so that we can actually understand what also might be at risk. And then to find out what has been going on in the first 70 days of the Trump administration, where national security matters have been discussed and deliberated, and to see whether or not there has been additional leakage of information in these unsecured channels. So, the Director Ratcliffe and Director Gabbard today and yesterday, I think they were dissembling a bit. I think they're trying to figure out exactly what happened themselves, and maybe they did not put any classified information onto this Signal chat. But it's clear that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, as well as Mike Waltz, who...
Is that really clear? Is it clear that they're trying to find out, or do they know? How does he know they don't know? How does he know they're not part of it? How did they? I mean, this is the crazy part. How can anyone assume that they did not know when they were warned by the Pentagon not to use the app and told why?
Who is the chairman of these principal committee meetings, and he is the one responsible for setting the agenda, inviting individuals to participate, and to actually conduct this meeting. So again, I think we're going to learn a lot more, and hopefully we're going to learn that not sensitive information has been actually compromised.
Right. So, in my mind, I don't think this matter, of course, this matter is not settled at all. It's not settled at all. But at the same time, one would still have to wonder why this could even happen, how this could even happen. Now, let me just go over here 2 seconds to Google. I hope everybody can see this. Pentagon warned of Signal app. Right. The Pentagon previously warned about this app. Now, as you can see, now let's go see if we can find an article here. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. NPR. Can y'all see this? Let me know if you can see this. Okay, let me make this a little smaller so everybody can see. Hopefully it will. Oh, okay, that's not this one. Let me see here. 2 seconds. Right. Is it this one? Yeah. Nope. Where's it at? Is this? All right, let me read this off for folks. Maybe I can make it a little smaller. Oh, yeah, it's up to 150. Let's see. 110. Can y'all see this now? Okay, it's a little clearer. Let's see. Right, there we go. Alrighty. Days after the signal leak, the Pentagon warned. Okay, this is days after the signal leak. Okay, the Pentagon warned app was target for hackers. Now let's see here. What date was this? Because I already looked this up. This was the 18th, the 18th of March. This is not days after. This is before. This is before, y'all. Look, March 18th, 2025. Pentagon memo adds, please note, third-party messaging apps, for example, Signal, are permitted by policy for unclassified accountability recall exercise, but are not approved to process or store non-public unclassified information. Encrypted Signal app is what Defense Pete Hegseth and other leading national security officials within the administration used to discuss bombing, right, the Houthis. Now let's see here. 2023 Defense Department memo prohibited use of mobile applications